Hello, my friends. We're doing something fun today. Well, I kind of hope we do something fun every day, but I'm going to show you how to do a focaccia bread that is really, really good. Now, what's fun about this one is that it's made today, baked today. Whereas I have other recipes that I'll show you as we go forward that definitely need the overnight rest. I have others that are sourdough, which I'll also show you. I've had my sourdough starter for 9 years. And her name is Margot, and she lives here, and we love her. But we're not up to doing sourdough on our YouTube channel yet because I'm trying to build skills for people who may not know and are just learning. So there's that. So we're going to do a same-day focaccia dough, and then we're going to do something that will take it from being just a really delicious side dish to making it for dinner tonight because it's hot out. And to go through all the work and just end up with a side dish didn't seem like a plan. So I have been harvesting tomatoes like my life depends on it, which I am so thankful for because, I mean, that's why we do it, right? But I have a lot. So what I did is I filmed a separate video of making roasted cherry tomatoes with roasted garlic, a little bit of chili flake, and that were dried here. I grew them. They're Calabrian chilies. I grew them here last year and I dried them. So that's all in there. And this stuff is, you could drink it out of the bowl. It's so delicious. So I have that as a separate recipe, and I'm going to edit it in because I'm going to use it in this recipe. And we're going to top this amazing focaccia bread with those roasted cherry tomatoes. We also have homemade Italian sausage. We make our own sausage here on this farm, and it is so good. That recipe will be here as well. And we're going to go get some nice herbs and provolone cheese. And that's what's going to be the dinner tonight here. And I figured if we're going to go through the work, we might as well just make a meal out of it. And it's summertime. We'll enjoy the beautiful fruits and vegetables while they're in season. This is easy. You're going to love it. Let's do it. We're back. This is my scale. I've had it for years. I love it. I got it on Amazon. I don't remember the cost, but I'll link it in case anybody wants this particular one. You don't need this fancy. I bake a lot, so that's why I have this one. They have scales that are just really super, they're small, they fit in a drawer, it's great. Anyway, so we're going to put our bowl on top and we hit tare. And that's to make sure that our grams are still sitting at 0. What we want as our first ingredient that we're going to weigh is our flour. We're using bread flour today, and I'm going to use 575 grams. So let's do it. Almost there. We're very close. Using grams when it comes to baking is so much easier than using ounces. Come on. Perfect. Okay, now it's important when we're going to go on to our next ingredient, which in our case is going to be the yeast, is that we tare again. That's very important. So we make sure we go back to 0. And we're going to add, this time, I have it written down, 6 grams of yeast. Now I find a little spot just in case I go over, but you do slowly so you don't accidentally put too much because it's hard to get it back out of the bowl. We're almost there. There it is. Oh, nope, not quite. 6, okay. Next we have salt. Okay, and that's 10 grams. So we're gonna, again, tare so it's back to 0. Pick a different spot to drop our salt. 9 and 10. Okay, and in this particular, oh, there's a fly. In this particular case, we're done with the weighing for the moment. So we're gonna turn this off and we'll be right back. Now what we need to do is mix up our dry ingredients. I'm not gonna bother worrying about whether you can see my face. You can see the bowl, it's more important. In this bowl is our flour, our bread flour, our yeast, and our salt. Mix it well. We're gonna be moving over to the mixer in just a moment. You can do this by hand, but I don't want to. If you want to, you go for it. It's not a difficult dough to work with, but oh gosh, no more of that for me. Okay, we've mixed up our dry ingredients. We're going to move over to the mixer, and we'll weigh the rest of our ingredients that are going to go directly into the mixer. Be right back. What we're going to do now is we're going to add our water. Now this has all been weighed, but I can't get it into the screen at the moment. Our water, our olive oil, our honey. All the measurements will be in the description below. Now here is our old dough. I've talked about this in every bread recipe that I've shown so far. I save a little bit of dough from the last batch and I add it to the next batch. Okay? Doesn't matter if it's got olive oil in it, doesn't matter if it's a sweet dough, doesn't matter if it's, if it's an extremely sweet dough, I do not. But if it's got a little bit of honey in it, no problem. This is where we're going to start to add our olive oil, our warm water, and our honey. Okay. All right. We can go ahead and get rid of the scale now, which you couldn't see anyway. Now I've got some water reserved on the side. Depending on the humidity, sometimes our dough will need a little bit more water or a little less. So I always hold back just a little so I can make sure I always hit what I'm looking for. And what I'm looking for is something I can show you better than just describe. Whoa, our mixer is running amok. All right, I'm going to turn this off for a moment and I'm going to feel it. Now this is still a little stiff. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of water. That's all. Turn it on low. If you turn it on high after you add just a tablespoon of water, it will be everywhere. And instead of seeming like a tablespoon, it'll seem like you put in 37 gallons. Ask me how I know. As it starts to pick that water up, we can bring up the temperature. Excuse me, the speed. What we're looking for, I've shown you in previous videos of baking. In the mixer, we're looking for this certain slapping sound. And that tells us that we've developed enough gluten that we can move on to our next step. Up to the next speed. Now we don't go right up on high. It would make a mess and it would tear our dough up. We bring it up a little at a time until everything's been pulled in. There we go. You see everything's been pulled in and it starts to move around as one solid clump. Now we can increase our speed. Hold on to the mixer because sometimes it'll try to walk right off the table. Never turn your back on a working mixer. Ordinarily I would cut this out, but I really want you to see the change. So I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to leave the camera running. I think I have the overhead rig on here, and I think it's possible that it might be shaking the whole rig. So I'm actually going to stop for a second and turn it back on when it's reached that point, and I'll turn it on so you can see. I'm turning the mixer back on, and I'm hoping it's not shaking this thing, but I want to show you something. The dough is starting to clear the sides. It's still stuck at the bottom. It's going to start to pull right off that bottom. You're going to see it happen right now. That little bit that's stuck at the bottom is going to lift off. Very soon after that, the slapping sound that I want you to listen for will start to happen. We're almost there. Starting to hear, there it goes. Okay, we're off the bottom. You hear it? There it is. When you hear that slapping sound, Mix for 1 minute more. Okay, we're back off the very loud mixer. This is our dough rising bucket. I've got a little olive oil in it. Olive oil is our theme for this. That's my glass of water, excuse me. So we're just going to go ahead and take our dough hook out. That's just one of the benefits. It happens to fit. I love it. The dough will release and fall in, and then we're going to save a little bit of dough, a couple of ounces, from about 40 grams or so, from here into our little container that we keep in the fridge. We snap it shut, and we continue on. I've been doing this for a really long time. The flavor that develops over time from this little flavor bomb, dough flavor bomb, you can't beat it. I know most people don't have it. Of course, you can just ignore it. If you happen to go ahead and start it, though, you won't regret it. So here we go. We're almost coming out. Side note, don't wash this. If you bake a lot, you'll never have to. It's always fresh. The dough is always soft. If you went on vacation, you forgot about it, and it turns yucky, then, of course, wash it. But in the meantime, there's all live spores in here from this culture. This has become a live culture, and we want to keep that. Okay, come on. And there's just a little bit left in the bowl. We'll just stick that back down there. And then we're going to grab just a little bit. A little bit more. This is all we're using. And with our, I'm going to wash my fingers real quick, because I don't want dough on the outside. Okay, and then and when we're all done, we put that in the fridge until the next dough, no matter what it is. Okay, so now we've got olive oil in the bottom of our bucket. We're tossing our dough so it's coated, and we're just giving it a little shape. What does that mean? I'm just rolling it over on itself in that olive oil, because in this particular case, I want that olive oil. There is olive oil in the dough, but not a whole lot. But this is adding, not just keeping it from sticking, but this is an opportunity to add a little bit more flavor. Okay, we're done. We're going to, I'm messy again. We're going to put the lid on there, and we're going to let this rise until it's doubled in size. In this particular case, it's going to take about, what time is it? 4 o'clock. We will be ready to go in the oven with this probably between 5:30 and 6. Now, if you should have suddenly, it's an hour and a half to 2 hours is what I'm trying to say. I don't know what's wrong with me. Cover it up so it stays warm. If you're drafty, if your home is super cold, if you've got the best air conditioning in the world, well, then what you want to do is put this in a proofer if you have one. I do have one. I actually have the one from a few years back that was all the rage. I'll link it because I can't remember the name. But then we got a new stove and it's got a proof setting in it. Now, in this particular case, because we want this to go a little longer to develop flavor, the longer a dough ferments, the better the flavor. So, if we were in a hurry, could we put this in the proofer and speed this up? Yes. Would it be the end of the world? Absolutely not. But because it's not a hurry, it's 4 o'clock, I've got time, I'm just going to cover this with a little towel and leave it sit right here. In about 90 minutes, I'll come back and take a look. This is another dough that we are not doing a whole lot of stretch and folds. We will do 2. That's all. So in 45 minutes, we're going to come and do 1 stretch and fold, set the timer again, and in about 30 minutes, we'll do a second one. That's all. And that's just to develop a little bit of structure so our bubbles our bubbles can build and they can hold. They don't burst. They actually will stay nice and bubbly for us. Other than that, we're just going to let it sit and double. And then we'll come back and show you what's next. That's going to involve heating the oven. The oven will heat to 450 degrees when it's time. We'll have a sheet pan, the flattest one you have. You know, over time we get these sheet pans that look like they've been through the war, and they get the dips and all that stuff. They're great for all sorts of things. This isn't one of them. So if you have one that's the flattest one you have with sides, it's important it has sides. We're going to put some olive oil down and put our dough down, and we're going to build something yummy. So I'll see you back in about an hour and a half. That was a fly. See you back in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. though I may sneak in and show you one of the stretch and folds, even though I've already done that in other videos. I may sneak in and do it again. See you soon. And we're back. So I have a few things in front of me. I have the sheet pan we talked about. I have 1/3 cup of olive oil, extra virgin. It's going to go on the bottom of this pan. Now, in a separate video that I'm going to include here somehow with editing magic, I guess, I'll figure that out later, are the roasted cherry tomatoes, roasted garlic, chilies, lots of olive oil, and this stuff is unbelievably delicious. So, and fresh basil. Now, here's the thing about cherry tomatoes. It is the only tomato pretty much in the world that I am tolerant of the skin on. They have huge flavor. However, I roasted them, obviously, skin on, olive oil, all that stuff. You'll see that in the video. I flavor it all up. I put it in the fridge to chill. Then when I'm bringing it out and I'm ready to use it, any skins that are readily slipping off, I take off. You literally need your finger, your index finger and your thumb. They slide right off. You don't even need to make a mess. 100% gone? No. I don't want them 100% gone. The flavor of that roasting on that skin is delicious. I don't want that flavor gone. But any of the skins that were already slipping off and they slide right out, I get rid of. We can do other things with the skins, but we'll worry about that at a different point. So we've got the tomatoes that we're going to use. These are homemade sausages that we made here on the farm. There will be a whole recipe for that and a video to go with it. In the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to take these out and we're going to remove the casings. We're going to use the sausage meat just as it is, no skin on the outside. So that's going to happen. And then from As Your Standard, I get a lot of cheeses and I freeze them. So I get as many as I can and then I freeze them. And today I'm using the, what are you? The Organic Valley provolone cheese. That's the flavor I wanted. I wanted a little bit more flavor than mozzarella. Mozzarella is super mild. I wanted just a little bit more. So I went with that. So I'm going to shred this up. Now, we've got our dough, and we're going to pour our olive oil all over the bottom, every little bit. Okay. And you're going to just let it run the whole thing. Shift it around, do all the things. Okay, I'm not going to make you sit here for 3 hours and watch me do this. No, it doesn't take 3 hours. I'm just being a jerk. Okay, so we're going to make sure we get the bottom coated. If it starts to give you a hard time or it's taking too long, like right now, with our fingers, it's covered. Now, our dough that has rested exactly 2 hours, look at that. Look at that nice, beautiful, big round ball. She's ready. Now, I don't want to pop all the bubbles, but, so we're going to take her out very gently. This is obviously the bottom. It's all rough and this is not, okay? So we're going to just set that down and we're going to gently start to stretch it. Now, it's not just going to lay out in the pan. That it will not do. So we're going to have to do this a little bit every 10, 15 minutes. We're going to let it rest and then we'll stretch again. When it starts to bounce back at you, that means it's activated the gluten again. We're trying not to do that. So because we want it to ease into the pan. So very gently with our fingertips. If you've got big giant rings on, this is probably a good time to take them off. And you've got the olive oil on both the top and the bottom. So it's easy to handle. It slides right off. It's not sticking to you. And I slide my fingers right underneath. And you start to see all the bubbles start to come. Oh, wow, there's a big bubble there. We're probably going to get rid of that bubble. That's a little too. Go away. Okay. All right. Now, after doing this, we're going to let it rest for about 10 minutes. And we're going to cover it with plastic because there's a fly. I hate them with the red hot passion of 1,000 suns. And it's like they love me. I don't know. Anyhow, we're going to let this rest for about 10 minutes, cover it up, and then we come back and we keep doing this over and over again until our dough has filled the pan. Okay? Doesn't have to be directly to every single corner, but most of the pan, 90%. Okay? And I'll show you when we get there because I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do this over and over again. That's a waste of your time. So I'm going to get some plastic wrap. I'm going to wash my hands. cover this up, and when we come back, we should be through this process. See you very soon. It's tomato season and it's harvest time. These are Bing cherry tomatoes. They are the sweetest cherry tomatoes I think I've ever had. With this bowl full that we've got here, I'm going to roast them with olive oil, roasted garlic, and fresh herbs from the garden. And then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Look at them, like jewels. Oh my gosh, these things are good. They're so sweet, they're almost like fruit. Okay, see you soon. Next, we're adding 4 cloves of garlic. Now the garlic is still in its casing, or its little paper. And here we've got oregano that I harvested a few days ago. I like it better when it's a little bit dry. It's not 100% dry, but it's probably a good 85%. I find the flavor is better, and I find it behaves better during the roasting process. Here we go. Okay, so in the bowl, we have the cherry tomatoes, the unpeeled garlic, Maldon salt, which is just a flake sea salt, oregano from the garden, and this is a dried pepper. It's a dried Calabrian pepper that I grew last year. I'm going to crinkle this up, and that's going to give us just what I'm looking for as opposed to a fresh pepper, and I'm just going to scoot this around with the seeds and everything. Now, it will be spicy. I'm going to toss this with the olive oil, and I'm going to show you what's next. It's going to go right onto a roasting pan. Be right back. I've got the oven preheated to 450 degrees. This is what we look like. All glistening in that olive oil. I have taken the garlic cloves and I've put them in the top corner. It doesn't matter which corner. I just put them in the corner. The things on the outside of the pan cook faster than the things on the inside. It will take a little bit longer for those garlic cloves to roast inside their skins. So I put them on the outside so they get that little extra jolt of heat, whatever. And this is going in. Lots of olive oil, salt, pepper, the oregano from the garden, and that beautiful Calabrian chili that I crumpled up. This will be spicy, but it will be amazing. This is going to go into the oven, and I'll see how long it takes before I tell you exact timing, because I don't know. Because I'm going to show you what we're looking for rather than a time. Be right back. Look at that. Almost. Another 5 minutes. Look at that. Roasted cherry tomatoes. Now as those garlic cloves cool, we'll squeeze them out and they'll be all nice and soft and delicious. This stuff's amazing. And I'll give you some ideas of where we can go with it from here. Oof. One more thing I forgot to mention. As we move this over to a bowl so it's ready to go on to its next stop, it's very important that we don't leave any of these juices behind. These juices are worth their weight in gold. Get every drop. I'm going to squeeze this right in here. It's sticking to my fingers. I'm holding a camera in one hand and squeezing with the other, so excuse how silly this is. There we go. Wipe off my fingers. Now we have to let all this cool in the liquid with the garlic and all that good stuff. Let it cool. Look at all this. Now this is amazing tossed with pasta. But how about you take baguette, you slice it, you toast it, you roast it, you rub it with a little bit of that roasted garlic, and you top it with some of this heavenly stuff. And then you just shave a little bit of Parmesan over the top. Have that with a glass of wine, and your day is better, I'll tell you that. Okay, just in case there's someone out there who has never done this before, when you want to take the casing off of a sausage, with a small knife, you run your blade down the back of the knife. Run your blade down the back of the sausage. Okay. And it just does that. And you literally just peel it off. And, whoopsie, slide the meat in. Okay? We're going to do that to all of our sausages. Why are we doing this and not using it with the casing? Because we have tomato product that's going to be on here as well, there's going to be steam, moisture. And what's going to happen, instead of having a nice crisp snap to the outside of the sausage, it would be kind of gummy. And I find that texture, I have a real texture issue. I call it my texture alarm. And different things set my texture alarm off. Mushy sausage casings is one of those things. The list of things that set off my texture alarm drives my husband absolutely out of his mind, but it's too late for him. He signed on the dotted line. We've been married 25 years. Suck it up, Buttercup. For example, while I'm peeling this, I absolutely despise the texture of like snails, like for those from the French dish with the snails, with the butter and the garlic and the wine. I love that sauce, and I want to dip in that sauce all day long with my bread. There is nothing you can do to make me put one of those snails in my mouth. So whenever we're at a place that actually has that dish, he will order it. I will not touch even one snail, but I will sop up all of his sauce with my bread, and he's left sitting there with dry snails. I'm sorry. I love you, honey. I do. I really love you, and thank you for putting up with that. It's not going to change. I'm sorry. I'm too old. Well, anyway, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. No need to see my goofy face, so we're just going to focus on here. Our dough has spread. Our hands. Oh my God! All right, moving on. My hands are very, very clean, and you're going to take your fingertips and you're going to push all the way down to the pan. It's going to feel like you're making holes. You're really not, but you're going to push all the way down to the bottom of the pan, making very deep dents. Everywhere. You'll see bubbles come up like that. It's all good. Okay, now we're going to take our tomatoes. Now, I have a lot of liquid in here. Can I move this? I don't know. Let me look in the camera and see if I can move that. No. Okay, we're going to take the tomatoes and we're just going to drop the tomatoes. We're not dragging all the sauce over. We're leaving that liquid in the bowl. A little bit will come with the tomatoes, but we're not going to scoop it up with a spoon and drop it on here. That's not what we're looking for at all. Okay, you see like that much liquid? That was even more than I needed. That's okay. We're going to push it down. Push these tomatoes into those little pockets. Make new pockets with the tomatoes. Shake off as much liquid as you can. You see some of the tomato skins, leave it there. The little bit that's left, the flavor is so good, it's worth it. Well, that one is pretty much fallen right out of its little house, so we'll take you off. Goodbye. You don't get to come to the party. Okay, so we're not going to bring all that liquid. Wow, that is a big bubble right here. Big bubble. Okay. We don't want to have any spots that have lots and some spots that have nothing. We want every bite to be a good one. Okay, but we don't want to cover the entire thing and leave nothing else because we have other toppings that are coming on. Okay, so I guess we'll do one here, one there, one there, and I think we're going to stop. Okay, now rinse my hand real quick. Next, we have our sauce. Because we have flies in the house, I'm going to cover everything again with our plastic wrap. You can't see it, but trust me, I'm doing it. Now we've got provolone cheese. Okay, now I'm just going to, this is not a pizza, so I'm not going to sprinkle tons and tons of cheese on here. That's not our goal. But it's going to add lots of flavor. But it is definitely not a pizza. This is a topped focaccia. Okay. I'm looking for certain spots because I don't want to cover everything. I want everything to have its own little moment. Nice little cheesy, look at this. Bloop. I don't know what's going to happen there, but we'll find out. Okay. Just a little bit more right there. And on the edge, we're done. Now, we're going to take little bits of our sausage, and we're going to break it up in our fingertips, like this, and kind of flatten it almost. That'll just make it easier to cook in the time that we have. Because if you put big blobs on there, it could take longer to cook, and it could cause the sausage not to be as cooked as we'd like. Okay. And we're just going to keep going. And I'll be right back, so you don't have to watch me do this, and I'll show you before we go in the oven. So I will say that, yes, I'm putting on a lot of sausage, and I'm doing that mostly because this is actually our dinner this evening. I'm going to have this and corn on the cob. So I need the protein, but also we're the weird family that always orders extra meat on our pizzas when we do have pizza. So if I were to just do light sausage, I would get I would listen to complaints. But Mom, why isn't there more? My sister got more in hers than I got on mine. Oh dear Lord, nobody wants to listen to that. And the worst part, my kids are grown. I have one that's about to be 16 and one that's 23. And that's exactly still the conversation I'd be listening to. Okay, we'll stop here. The rest of that sausage will be turned into a pasta tomorrow. And we'll use up this cheese too. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now that we top this is we're going to let this sit for 15 minutes unbothered, just so that any puffing and bubbles that need to be restored to their former glory can bounce back up before we go into the oven. We handled it quite a bit, so we want to give it a moment to rest. So I'm going to clean up my mess. I'm going to cover this with plastic because of the flies. And I'll show you right when we go into the oven. The oven is set to 450 degrees. And we'll soon be ready. I'll get a pot on the stove for the corn. You don't need to watch me do that. I thought I'd share a tip with you. We come from a restaurant background, cooking professionally. That's pretty much all I've ever done. My husband as well. So we don't necessarily do things at home the way they're meant to be done. We kind of brought a lot of the restaurant tips with us home. One of the things is we use these containers. We get them on Amazon. We used to get them from obviously our restaurant supply. But these are the best for storing things, keeping them sealed. They are watertight. You get the lids and everything stays fresh. They stack, so they're really easy to deal with because in a professional kitchen, storage is certainly an issue. So you want to make sure that everything can stack. The labels that we use in professional kitchens tends to be masking tape. And on the masking tape, you would just write what it is and the date. Well, we still do that. And this keeps everything nice and neat. We never wonder how long something's been there. And when you have things in the fridge, nothing tastes like the other because everything is sealed. We don't use plastic wrap in the fridge. It just makes a mess. And in a professional kitchen, that's a no-no. So everything has to be sealed really well. I mean, obviously, if it's plastic wrap, it is really sealed on there. So we do that at home as well. And it works great. So in case you didn't know about this, and they're much less expensive than like Tupperware or something like that, because they're not decorative. They're not meant to be cute. They don't have flowers on them or anything like that. You snap the lid on and then you let a little bit of air out and you'll hear it. And they stack just like that. They come in 3 sizes. They come in half pint, and this would be called 2 pound. It's a quart. And you just take everything, you put it all in there, you let the air out. Hopefully you heard that. And you label it, and everything's good, and your fridge is always neat. Your food stays as fresh as possible. And it's much less expensive. Save you a fortune. Okay, I'll link that in the bottom in case you want to give it a try. Okay, we've got maybe 10 minutes left, and then we're going to go into the oven. Oh, one more thing. We usually, for a focaccia, we would be sprinkling olive oil over the top. Because we have raw sausage, that's going to let so much fat out. We're going to use that fat to brown and give us all that flavor on the top instead of drizzling that olive oil over the top. So we're going to be using pork fat instead because it's so good. Anyway, this will be labeled and put in the fridge. That'll be in the oven shortly. We'll be right back. And here we are, out of the oven. Beautifully caramelized. See all the caramelization right here? This is what we want. Big bubbles climbing up the side of the pan. Nice crisp sausage. Perfect. Oh, perfect. This is so good. Enjoy. I'll see you next time. If you like what we do, consider subscribing. I'd love to have you, and I'd appreciate the support. Thank you. See you next time.